Hello Data Science Addict. Today we are here with the introduction of machine learning. So giving you the introduction of machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence that involves the development of algorithms and models that enables computers to learn from and make predictions or decisions based on data. Instead of being explicitly programmed with specific instructions, machine learning systems use statistical techniques to automatically improve their performance over time through experience. Now imagine you are teaching a computer to do something by showing it a lot of example. For instance, like think about teaching a computer to recognize whether some fruit is an apple or an orange based on its color and size. You need to start by showing the computer a bunch of apples and oranges that are each labeled with what they are. So the computer looks at the color and size of each fruit. Now you need to find out the patterns. So the computer start noticing the patterns in the data. It might realize that most of the apples are red or green and the oranges that were usually orange is an orange. It also seems that the bigger fruit tend to be orange. So now it's making the predictions after learning from many examples. The computer became pretty good at figuring out like whether a new fruit is an apple or an orange. So when you show a new fruit, it used to like tend to tell you what it learned to make a guess based on its color and size. The more examples you give to the computer, the better it's getting at guessing correctly. So it keeps refining its understanding and getting smarter over the time. So in short, you can say that machine learning is like a teaching your computer to learn from examples and make predictions or decisions based on what it has learned. And it's just like how we learn from experience, the computer learns from data to make the better judgments. Now we'll go further to know about more what are the types of machine learning algorithms. So there are mainly four types of machine learning algorithms: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Now let's go through them one by one and try to understand them with some examples. So coming firstly on the supervised learning, it's like having a teacher that is guiding you in your school. So similarly, in this type of learning for computers, there's a teacher that is called your training data. The computer learns from this data to recognize the patterns, like how we learn from our teachers. After the learning phase, when we give the computer new examples, it predicts and categorizes them, like taking your exam. Teacher taught you something and the next is your exam. Similarly, computer also gives a new example by predicting them. So there are mainly two types of problems in supervised learning. They are regression and classification. Now let's come on to the regression. So this happens when the computer deals with numbers. Now, for example, an algorithm could predict someone's salary based on their years of experience. Now, going to the classification, in this scenario, the computer categorizes things into the groups. If there are two groups, it's called binary classification. And examples like you are predicting whether a customer will churn or not, whether he'll leave that organization or not. Now, if there are more than two groups, it's known as multi-class classification. So, an example of this would be like classifying fruits like apples, oranges, and mangoes. This was all about your supervised learning. Now, coming on to the unsupervised learning. So, to understand unsupervised learning, imagine you have a big bag of different colored marbles, but you don't know how many colors are there or which marble belongs to the same group color. So, you want to computer to help you organize them without giving it any instructions. Here, there will be no labels, no teachers. You need to find out the similarities by grouping the marbles. You need to discover the patterns. So let's come on to the each one of them. Now, like unlike in supervised learning, when you have a teacher guiding, here there is no teacher, no labels on the marbles to tell like what computer wants. Okay. Now here we need to find out the similarities. The computer wants to start looking at the marbles and noticing them like which one look like each other. It might group marbles what are of similar colors or have similar patterns. We need to group out the marbles into these similarities. Based on these similarities, the computer starts putting marbles together into groups. It's like creating piles of marbles that seems alike. As it continues, the computer might realize that some groups have marbles with a specific shade or pattern, even though you didn't tell it anything about colors or patterns. The computer's job here is to find these groups or clusters of marbles that naturally go together without knowing what each of these clusters means. So, unsupervised learning is like letting the computer explore and find hidden patterns in data even when we don't want to tell it what it was looking for. It's like having the computer organize your marbles into groups based on how they look without needing a label on each one. Here there was no label, but without that label also we have done like finding out some similarities, grouping out them. We need to find out some of the hidden patterns. We need to classify them. So this was all about the unsupervised learning. It's like getting to explore more about the hidden patterns in the data. Now, coming on to the semi-supervised learning, to understand this, imagine you are trying to identify different types of flowers in your garden, but you don't sure each of one of them, like what are there. You don't know about the few flowers, like you know about the few flowers that this one is this particular name, but for some of them you are not sure. So for the one that you are sure about the name, that is your labeled one. But the other flowers that are unidentified, that are unlabeled. So known and unknown flowers, here we are having the things. So some flowers in your garden that have labels and you are telling their names while others don't. You want to figure it out names of the unknown flowers. Now you examine the labeled flowers and take note of their colors, shape and size. You start to understand their characteristics that distinguish each type of flower. As you study the labeled flowers, you notice that certain colors are petals, shape that are associated with specific types of flowers. Like for example, red petals with a round shape might indicate a rose. Now, armed with this knowledge, you turn to the unlabeled one. You compare their feature to what you have learned from the known flowers. If you came across any unlabeled flower with red petals with a round shape, you might confidently identify it as a rose. Now, by using this all information from the known flowers to help you guess the names of the unknown ones, you are able to make more accurate flower identification. So, in a broader sense, semi-supervised learning involves leveraging a mix of labeled and unlabeled data to improve your ability to make predictions or classification. Coming on to the reinforcement learning. So, to understand reinforcement learning, imagine you are teaching your dog. Suppose you are having a dog and his name is Max. A new trick using reinforcement learning, you want Max to learn to sit when you give a command. Now, whenever Max follows your command and sits down, you want him a treat as a reward. Max learns that sitting when told leads to something good. Means when he is sitting, he is getting a treat. So Max starts to understand that when he sits, he gets a treat. So he tries to sit more often to get more treats. That is like learning from feedback or consequences. So sometimes Max might not sit when you ask. Don't give him a treat in those cases. He learns that not following your command means no treat. As you keep practicing, Max gets better at sitting on command because he wants those treats. He learns to associate sitting with getting rewards. Now, Max not only sits when you are in the living room, but also when you are outside on the backyard area. So, he's applying his learning in different situations. So, reinforcement learning is like training Max. He treats as rewards that are your positive reinforcement. So when he does something right, and the absence of treats when he doesn't do something like what your command gives. So the absence of treats when he doesn't sit is a negative reinforcement. It teaches him to improve his behavior. So over time, Max learns the best actions to take like that get from your rewards, and he became better on this trick. In broader terms, like reinforcement learning is about training a computer or an agent to make better decisions by experiencing positive outcomes and learning from the consequences of its actions, just like Max learns from getting treats or not based on his behavior. So this was all about the introduction of machine learning. Do like, share and comment for more.